folks. Good evening and welcome to this evening's planning committee. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. I haven't been made aware of any fire drills, but if you do hear the fire alarms, please make your way through the news exit guided to the gathering building. Do we have any apologies? Item 1 of the agenda. Got apologies from Councillor Peer and previous substituted by Councillor Sweeney. Good evening, Councillor. Do you have any other apologies? Dated. Item 2 of the agenda, declarations of interest. I have to declare an interest myself. And item 4 of this agenda, which is application for major development land off Cross Street, Chesterton. I am a board member on the Aspire board, so I will be handing it over to Councillor Chris. You're in agreement to take the chair for that item, but I'm not taking that item right now. I intend to take item 8 on the agenda, which is application for minor development, International House, Dudgate, Newcastle under Lyme. But before we do that, we'll just refer to item 3 on the agenda, which is minutes of the previous meeting. Are we all in agreement that that was a true and accurate record of proceedings that evening? If so, can I see a show of hands? Thank you very much. It's unanimous. So on with the formal business of the evening, we now go on to item 8 on the agenda, which is now item 4. International House.
Thank you, Chair. So the application seeks full planning permission for the change of use of an existing office building to a homeless hub and house of multiple occupation shelter for homeless people. A decision on the application was deferred at the meeting of the Planning Committee on the 13th of August to enable officers to provide further details of management of the proposed facilities, information and statistics on the operation of existing facilities, a health impact assessment, and the police were to be invited to attend. So the requested information has been received, circulated to all members of the Planning Committee, and the information is also available to view on our website. So this is the location of the building on Stubbsgate in Newcastle. So we've got Brook Lane running down here with Morrison's over to the west, and the Boat and Horses public house there on the corner, and the number 1 London Road developments there just to the north. So this is the site plan. So access into the site here, it's an existing access. There's a car park which will have 9 parking spaces. So the proposal involves a transfer of existing services which run at the Salvation Army on Bridge Street in Newcastle. That's the homeless hub. And Mariel Street in Newcastle, that's the residential accommodation element. So external changes to the building would be minimal, and therefore there would be no impact on the character and appearance of the area. So this is the ground floor of the building, so you can see the hub accommodation with dining area, and a private room there, kitchen, etc. And then the other element of the building will be the residential accommodation, and there'll be 12 bedrooms. So the homeless hub element will provide hot meals, showers, laundry facilities, along with visiting services for homeless people to access in one place. The service will be managed by the Borough Council Rough Sleeper and Homelessness team. The hub would have 6 members of staff, and the proposed hours of opening are 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. although the applicant has advised that it's likely that it would be open for a maximum of 2 hours per day. The longer opening hours requested are to allow for some seasonal flexibility as needs can change depending on the weather. So in addition, residential accommodation will be provided in the form of a house of multiple occupation with 12 bedrooms, shared lounge and kitchen facilities. The accommodation would have 2 members of staff on site at all times with security present at night. Access would be controlled both at the external gate and at the building entrance, and residents would have to call security prior to being permitted to enter. The building would have CCTV in all communal areas, both indoor and outdoor, which would be monitored by the staff. So that's the floor plan of the first floor, so showing the bedroom accommodation there. That's the external elevations of the building, which, as I said earlier on, the very minimal external changes. So just to show, there's some photos of the existing building. So that's looking along Stubbs Gate. This is the building here. It's looking back in the other direction towards the pub and Brook Lane. Showing the number 1 London Road development opposite. That's the main access, vehicular access into the site. Shows another access point there, and that's taken from within the car park, which as you can see there, is already marked out, but one of those parking spaces will be given over to the bin store, so there will be 9 parking spaces. So Staffordshire Police have stated that from a practicality, functionality perspective, there are a large number of positives with the proposals. They commend the proposed security measures, including CCTV, staff and security controlled access to residential areas, and the presence of security personnel at night, in addition to staff members. It's concluded that essentially from a building and site practicality, functionality perspective, there would appear to be very little that could be viewed as negative. And indeed, there are potentially a large number of positive aspects that would appear to be well suited to the proposed function of the building. Given the positive comments of the police, it's not considered that there is any sound justification for objecting to the application on the grounds of the potential effect on the incidence of crime and disorder.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Before we go to members, we have got a speaker on this item, Mr. Cooper, who's objecting to his resident. Would you like to come forward, Mr. Cooper? Got 5 minutes, Mr. Cooper, to make your address to the councillors. We start when you're ready by pressing the red button in front of you. I think that 4 minutes.
Dear committee members, I speak today on behalf of our community to strongly object to this proposal, which threatens our safety, privacy and overall well-being. Whilst the proposal dismisses our fears of crime and social behaviour, the fortress-like design of the building with its
Mr. Cooper, can I just can you speak your mind towards you?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, so if you can hear clearly, thank you.
The fortress-like design of the building with its intense security measures indicates that trouble is anticipated. This alone should serve as evidence that crime is likely. Yet the documents, including the police reports, don't provide any real data on the crime in the current or proposed surrounding areas, but only inside the current hubs themselves, leaving us all with unanswered questions. We're already dealing with high levels of antisocial behaviour nearby. All these problems now are going to be brought to Stubbs Gate too. Paragraph 9.1 of the management plan states that security will be present for 15 hours per day, whilst the gates will be locked for 21. How can the property be properly secured if there are no security staff for 6 of those hours? The plan also mentions the intercom entry by security, but this contradicts statements made about the security setup being in place for only part of the day. It's unclear how service users will be managed during those hours when no security staff are present. This leaves us confused and deeply concerned about what the actual policy is and will be. Going to paragraph 3.4.2 of the SPD, the design should reduce the impact on the environment. Yet environmental health concerns about lighting remain unresolved. Security lighting will shine into our gardens on Hatchell Street and Stubbs Gate, violating our privacy. The health risk assessment, paragraph 2.6, mentions these issues, but no solutions have been provided. The management plan claims in paragraph 10.2 that the intercom system is not overlit by any homes, yet clearly on the photographs it is. It also claims that windows will only face internal courtyards or the car park with no new windows to be installed. However, the drawings clearly show 2 new windows overlooking homes on Hatchell Street. This directly contradicts the promise of privacy for the surrounding residents. Indeed, most of the current windows will in fact overlook the surrounding dwellings in the area in some form. Historically, there will be no windows to the rear of the building due to planning constraints with former office block. So why is this being ignored now for 24/7 HMO, especially given the increased impact on privacy? Consultation has been woefully inadequate. Paragraph 3.21 of the SPD states that community consultation should have been thorough, but only 28 out of around 400 households were contacted after the application was submitted, and no members of the public were consulted during the pre-application process. The development of this scale amount of public consultation is something the local authorities are keen to promote on such big decisions. Currently, residents from nearby areas like Lyme Valley investors who also may be affected haven't been consulted at all. Paragraph 96 of the NPPF, the fear of crime is recognised as valid, and this is the case here. Documents fail to alleviate our fears, leaving us feeling vulnerable and at risk. So-called management plan is vague, contradictory and incomplete. For example, paragraph 10.2 claims service users won't be risk assessed, but it's unclear what happens to those who fail this assessment. We're left wondering who could turn up at our doorstep or apartment complex, especially those who have been rejected entry. In another document, the C2CH letter, it's admitted that the current project was a learning curve, but our densely populated area cannot endure another experiment, especially when we're already dealing with a Lyme trust nearby. The proposal enforces a zero tolerance policy for substance abuse on site, but what happens when the service users leave? We feel the secluded areas near our homes and apartment complex will become even bigger hotspots for illegal activity. Officers have already stated that service users can enter the premises in any state, even more exposed. There's no clarity on how the safety of nearby residents will be ensured, leaving a gaping hole in the management strategy. Additionally, the daytime hub currently serves around 30 people twice a week. This new facility could see 150 or more every week. There's been no clear analysis of how this volume will impact our neighbourhood, and that's if they don't open 8 hours a day as proposed. Finally, paragraph 3.26 of the SPD says that urban design should be compatible with the character of the area. This development does not complement our neighbourhood, nor does it address the serious concerns around crime and safety and the genuine fear from the apartment complex residents that they could become the next Grenfell. The council is obliged to protect the living standards of all residents, not just service users. In conclusion, we ask that the application be rejected as it poses significant risk to our living conditions, privacy and safety. Whilst this project is a much needed addition to the borough, this location is entirely unsuitable for such a development, and it stands in direct contradiction to the NPPF and SPD guidelines. The contradictions in the documents only amplify our concerns. Please, for the sake of our community, can you reject this proposal tonight? And I'd just like to add, this is only a snapshot of the lack of substance in the proposal and our concerns, as it would take nearly an hour to go through them all with you tonight. Another reason how important a public consultation would have been. Thank you for your time.
Super. Okay, before I ask officers, to draw members' attention to the information that circulated, also circulated on the council's website. The additional supplementary information, because the planning committee we for extra information in the last meeting on the 13th of August, we're receiving information to the management of the facility to limit antisocial behaviour, and also the information and statistics that we required at the last committee meeting. So without further ado, I'll now hand over to you members for declaration. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. This is my first planning committee, but I listened very carefully to the recording of the last meeting, and I have two questions. The first one for officers. Is the area in question subject to a public space protection order? That's the first question. Secondly, on the health impact assessment, I see the detail that hub spaces are staffed with police presence and any antisocial behaviour is not tolerated. Could you define what police presence is and give me some information about response time, please?
So just to introduce myself first, Chief Inspector Darren McGrath, I'm the commander here at Newcastle. I suppose just to start, before I answer those questions, just in terms of police involvement up to now, we work very closely with local authority, work closely with Christelle, who's put this proposal forward, and her team. We've not been asked for a formal response in terms of this facility, so our involvement up to now has been to provide statistics, which we heard at the last meeting. We provided more statistics for tonight around antisocial behaviour in some facilities. But when it comes to planning, I have to be very clear that the police are neutral in that sense. We're here to answer questions. We're here to give figures, facts. Haven't got a crystal ball around what could happen. But we can listen to the gallery, to the chap that's just given the account, and we can give our best answers towards that. But just to be clear, we're not here to have a stance on that planning. I just need to make that very clear for the meeting. PSPO, yes, there is a PSPO in place. It reaches far out to where this facility is going to be. The way that is policed is by police, PCSOs. We have the town centre wardens who support us with that also. And we have members of the local authority who will go out and enforce that PSPO as well, which includes antisocial behaviour and some of the behaviours which have been raised as a concern. So, yes, it does. In terms of police response to the hub that currently runs, was that second question? Sorry.
I'm interested in the response to the hub and interested to the response that would be following any trouble outside.
Yeah, so the hub that's been proposed, because we currently have a hub that runs a couple of times a week in Newcastle Town Centre, or are you referring to this proposal? Sorry.
To this proposal?
Yeah, so me and Christelle have had meetings around how that would look. What my recommendation would be if this plan was to go ahead, we would have regular contact. I would want an office inside that building that police officers, PSSOs could use on a daily basis. We have laptops now, so we can work remotely. What I would encourage is our town centre staff, which there are 3 PCs and 3 PSSOs, to have daily contact in that hub. I would want a space that we could use where they could work from remotely. The individuals that would be going into that facility would be well known to us by our intelligence systems, our local briefings. And I would want a member of staff to have daily contact. I would want a single point of contact, which would look like a police officer, town centre officer. But I'd want that regular contact on a daily basis down there if this proposal was to go ahead.
Does that answer your question?
Just pursue it a little bit. 2 things. What you're saying is what you would like.
Yeah.
Has that been organised already? Is that in place? Has that arrangement been made? And secondly, what would the response time be if there was trouble outside?
Define trouble.
If there was somebody outside who was inebriated or causing antisocial behaviour, how long? I gathered from speaking to my local PCSO in Silverdale, there's a grading system.
Absolutely, yeah.
So could you talk us through how quick the response could be, please?
So if it was a grade 1, somebody was in threatening violence, say, for example, that would be a grade 1 response, which we would expect to be responding to within 10 minutes. If it was a grade 2, and that could be antisocial behaviour, typically, which graded that is 30 minutes. And then a grade 3 would be an appointment, and that wouldn't fit for the description that you've just given for problems outside. But it's depends on the incident, what's being described by the call taker, by the person that's ringing in. And in terms of having staff there, that's something that's already been agreed We have local officers that we would want to have that daily contact, similar to how we have at the hub currently in the town centre, which is right.
Thank you.
And just add to that as well, just to give you an idea of what we do at the moment and the current hub that we have. So we have the town centre marshals present on the Tuesday and Thursday that we're there. We ensure that they are doing walk arounds as well when people are coming in and when people are leaving. So we also have integrated offender management, commonly customers engage. We also have police that just come drop in PCSO. So we have a presence already. So it's just continuing that. But in terms of response, in terms of issues we've had, if you look at the report, we haven't had an incident where we needed to call the police out. Everything has been managed within house because of the strong partnership relations that we have with the police and other departments as well.
Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I begin by saying I've come along this evening with notes, and they actually do echo many of the issues that Mr. Cooper has raised. So I think members need to bear with me because I do think they're important. First of all, I found some of the supplementary material helpful, but it still raises questions. There are expressions and terms in the supplementary material that I think members do need to pursue. And my first question really relates to Bridge Street. If this application falls, will Bridge Street still continue? So in fact, we would actually see a reduction in support for rough sleepers and homeless people in Newcastle.
Sorry, so if this application falls, yeah, currently we will try to make Bridge Street continue as long as possible. If this application falls, then we will try to find somewhere else to continue to serve somewhere else because it is needed. And our service users and the agencies find it really useful. So without it, yeah, we have to find somewhere else for it.
Right, thank you. Now, perhaps I could just sort of take up some of the terms that were used in the supplementary material and get some, for my benefit, clarity. There's a reference to zero tolerance of ASB and substance use. So if someone is seeking admission to the day service and they are found to be under the influence, will they be admitted?
Currently, what we'll do is we assess the individual and assess each case. If it's something that we can support with, if we think it's going to turn into a direction we don't want it to, we also have to consider the other users that are there. Then we would take a decision and make that decision in that we can give them something in terms of food and stay away, but we wouldn't admit them in.
One concern that I think Mr. Cooper touched on, and certainly sort of came across in the documentation that I was reading, is how is it possible to prevent people from gathering outside the facility once the sort of services have ended? You refer in the supplementary material to a street presence. Could you explain what that means?
So how it would look like when the hub would open, we would have the gate open and we would have the security outside to ensure that there's no lingering. So when people are coming in, they will come into the courtyard and would be waiting there. And when they leave, we would ensure that either a member of staff or the security would be walking out to make sure that nobody's launching outside. That's not what we want. And so we would make sure that they are getting off the street and not being causing any nuisance and issues.
Thank you. Now, when it comes to people who are seeking accommodation, am I right in thinking that they cannot just turn up? They have to be referred. Is that right?
Absolutely. Nobody can just turn up. It isn't a walk-in. They have to be referred. The referral from my team, then a risk assessment has to be done. A meeting will be held with the provider on the accommodation part where we sit and discuss the risks that are outlined. We will discuss the risks to the other residents there if they are compatible, to staff, to community. If we feel that they are not high, then we will consider taking them on board. But it's also about that individual wanting the change, and it's also about that individual being ready for the change, because that's what the provision will provide. It's that wraparound support to get them to a point where they are ready to get back into the community, to engage. So it's not about just taking anyone in. It's not about just anyone walking off the streets.
Thank you for explaining that. And coming back to more planning matters, Chairman, if I may, the health impact
Yes,
assessment
Newcastle.
dealt with noise and lights. Now, there are a number of recommendations in the officer's report to deal with noise. Light didn't seem to figure. So my question is, are officers entirely satisfied that the neighbouring properties will not be affected by light from the hub?
Just looking at the detailed comments of environmental health, because on issues such as, you know, light pollution, noise pollution, etc., we seek the comments of the Environmental Health Division, and they recommended conditions in relation to noise, but didn't feel that any conditions were necessary in relation to lighting. If members do think differently, I would be happy to recommend a condition that requires any details of any external lighting, that could be put on as an additional condition.
Thank you.
Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's one for Christophe probably this. When the BAC O'Connor Centre went into Orchard House, there was quite a kerfuffle about that. But the people in Orchard House didn't want to be drug addicts anymore. They wanted to clean themselves up and turn their lives around. And I don't think there was any bother with Orchard House at all. The people that you're looking to work with in Newcastle, this place, they're obviously homeless, and you're referring them, but you vaguely alluded to this a few minutes ago. So are these people who don't want to be homeless anymore? They really want to turn their lives around and move on from sort of supported accommodation, which is what this is, to a flat or a house somewhere that they can breathe by themselves. It's like a halfway house. It's not people who just want to carry on doing what they're doing. They actually want to turn their lives around, and this is the something that would help them with that. Is that fair to say that, or am I being over-optimistic?
No, that's absolutely right. And just to point out, it's not just for people with addictions. The people that we're seeing out there are people who suffer with mental health. One of the case studies raised and put out forward is of a 56-year-old female who had her own property, abandoned that property because of her mental health, because of the issues she was facing. She chose to rough sleep, which was not suitable for her. She would be suitable for this property because she would have the wraparound support that she needs to enable her to move back into the community. She's got no substance misuse. This provision isn't just for people with substance misuse, it's for anyone who's vulnerable and needs somewhere to have that support, and for those individuals who are ready to make the difference and who want to make that change. That's what it's for.
You could just follow up on that. What would you expect this to do to the rough sleeping cohort in Newcastle, sort of numbers wise? You know, cut it in half or something, Reece, would you say?
Absolutely. In terms of Newcastle obviously, we have around 6 or 7. You might see more than that, but these are out of area of sleepers. This provision would not be for them. It would be for our local people who have a local connection to Newcastle, who want to make that difference and that change. And yes, it's about keeping them up and providing that support. They might not be ready for this provision, but that's why we have the help of the agencies to get them that support through drug and alcohol, through all the other agencies that we have there. So yes, it's about cutting those numbers in half as much as we can.
Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. Something our officer just touched on, I think, is germane to a lot of concerns we've heard from residents tonight. And at our last meeting, she mentioned that you might see more people knocking around Newcastle They are not our rough sleepers, to put it bluntly. And that is, I think, the concern, one of the concerns that residents have raised that was a concern to me when we voted to defer this last time around. And that is not people who are resident at this facility, but the people you see around the town centre, the people who come in from other places. Just referring to the supplementary information we received, grateful thanks to the police for providing it. Even in the 5 bullet points provided, 2 of those are about people hanging around who vanished before the police turned up. So mail refusing to leave, mail moved prior to police arrival, call from provider to about an individual knocking on the door to the shelter, individual left before officers arrived. And these are the sort of incidents that I think residents are most concerned about. Yes, our officers have got very good answers to questions relating to admission to the premises, and they've got good answers to questions about who the sort of people who will be accommodated there. But in terms not of service users, but of people who show up anyway, they are going to cause problems for residents in the same way that they are at the existing facilities. And that is the concern, I think, that resonated with me. So residents saying to us, if you approve this, all of this is going to follow. Our lives will be made a nightmare by people who are shifty. They might be trying doors, they might be trying car doors, they might be trying other people's houses' doors, but they will vanish into the night before the police show up, and that it won't necessarily be followed up. Maybe it'll be recorded in the same way as this, but it's that kind of antisocial behaviour, that kind of impact on the residential amenity that councillors were concerned about when we were deferring it. And I'm grateful, very grateful to the police for coming tonight. Thank you, Chief Inspector, because it's helpful to have that perspective. But that is the core concern that was restricting many of us from voting for this last time round. I'm not sure that it's been met. So in relation to antisocial behaviour, residential amenity, not within the curtilage of this facility, but surrounding it and going along with it. And our officers have acknowledged that these are not our service users. They may not even be local to our area, but that's the unfairness of it. We're placing this facility in a location in our borough anywhere, but right next to people's houses. It's attracting that. And do we have an answer to, can we guarantee that it's not going to happen? I'm not sure that we can, certainly not with what's been discussed in terms of, policing of that space, albeit it's within a PSPO already. Are there any comments officers would like to make that might reassure us as councillors when we're voting on this? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor
Just to look at those points that you've raised, absolutely valid. Like Mr. Cooper mentioned earlier about the C2CH, that first year was a learning curve for us. The property has to be turned around very quickly. It wasn't suitable for the need, and that's why we've learned what we need to do now. Those individuals, if you look 5 incidents over 2 years, and it was just people knocking on the door and they left and didn't come back because they knew that we had a strong stance that no, they couldn't come in, whether they knocked or not, and then they haven't come back again. So I think that just shows, I think once they learn who the provision for and what we are saying and that we're standing by is that no, it won't happen again, and then won't happen again, which is why everything we've put together now is because of things that we have learned to make sure that we are mitigating the risks as much as possible.
So can I just ask a question on that? So what you're basically saying is that there's always an initial period when something just opens where people test out the facility, they test out the overarching management of the facility to see what it's about, basically, test weaknesses and strong points. And once they've satisfied their anxiety, not anxiety, their curiosity, should I say, they move on.
Yes, and because we've been running this provision for 2 years now, they know that that's not the case, that they know what this is going to be about and who can and can't go in there. So, yeah, we've had, like I said, 5 incidents in 2 years, but now we're okay and we're looking to run it again this year. So.
Councillor Hoffman, do you wish to come back?
I am grateful to the officer for commenting that well made. I don't know if there's a fair way of saying this, but when we're told oh, these people know, they know that this is the way this is going to operate. It is an acknowledgement that these people exist. They're not our service users. They are people who cause antisocial behaviour in our town. And the fact that there's a community of them, and I'm sure they're known to the police and they're known to our officers, and many of us will see them around the town centre. It doesn't fill you with optimism that this will be a completely bulletproof strategy, but I appreciate what our officers have said. They've come with more information this time. It is certainly what we asked for in order to make a decision. I do have a separate issue that's completely unrelated to this, Chair. I don't know whether you wanted to ask other members to chime in on this first.
Go while you're on Councillor.
Okay, in that case, it will be one for our planning officers. It relates to something the public speaker, Mr. Cooper, said about windows. It will be a simple yes or no answer. Are there extra windows being punched in the side of this building? And have we done all of the usual calculations relating to separation distances and whether or not principal rooms, that is rooms that are occupied as bedrooms, are overlooking other properties locally? Because that's one of the things that our residents have come to us with tonight, and they've said, okay, there are going to be these windows that don't exist yet, and they're going to be in the side of the building, and there are also going to be issues of overlooking from the residential part of this accommodation. Is there an answer to that? Thank you.
Just bear in mind, just have a, I can show you the existing elevations and so this is the building as it is currently. Right, spot the difference here. So certainly on this elevation, the northeast elevation, there are no new windows.
Two windows.
So if we look at the northwest elevation, this one. New there. So this one, the south east elevation, there's those two high level windows at ground floor. And then
Yeah, time two.
Yes.
We explain we live there.
Thank you.
There's two windows in the middle.
Excuse me, just to remind members,
Sorry,
like this isn't a question and answers. Thank you.
Getting paid.
Apologies. So it's on the elevations that we're looking at, it's the second row down, isn't it? It's those two high level ones. Are they bedrooms? Are they part of the hub facility? Can we see the plan?
yeah, we'll
that-
have a
that
look
shows,
at
yeah,
the
those two.
floor plan. It's those two there, so they're kitchen lounge areas, so they're not principal windows. So in answer to your question, yes, we're satisfied that there won't be any additional impact on any privacy because they're not principal windows, and because they're high level windows, they're just providing light into the room.
I think I completely understand that through you, Chair. That's a satisfactory answer to me. I know that members of the public present might not quite grasp the distinction. So firstly, they're high level windows, so they're quite high up the wall. And secondly, they are the windows for that kitchen lounge area, so they're not bedroom windows. And because they're not bedroom windows, they don't count as principal windows for the purposes of our planning policy. Would it be unfair of me to ask for a condition that they be obscure glazed? Is that not a thing I should ask for, or would it be possible for us to ask for them to be obscure glazed?
That's fine. I think that's something that we have concern about if it's, the only window in a bedroom, for example, but in a room like this, it's absolutely acceptable for them to be obscure glazed.
Thank you, councillor Harney. Councillor Burnett.
Mark's actually answered a lot of the questions I was going to ask. One thing I'm concerned about is the out of town rough sleepers. If they are causing antisocial behaviour and there's a call raised to the police, am I right in thinking that that would be a grade 2 call and it could take up to 30 minutes for somebody to come out? And 30 minutes, if there's something kicking off, is a long time.
So we need to be very clear on what a call would be, because kicking off in some person's eyes is somebody with a bottle of alcohol, singing, being loud. Would that generate a grade 1 response from the police? It would depend on what other incidents are in at that time. Are they offering violence to another person? How are they impacting people? So it would be wrong for me to state what the response times would be, because it would have so many different factors that would come into it. And I could give you 20 different examples of somebody outside the facility that wouldn't generate a grade 1 response. It would have to be some very specific circumstances, such as making threats to a search user that was within, to the point where we're generating multiple calls from the residents because it's causing that antisocial behaviour. So I would need somebody in the control room to make that assessment of what the call was going to do. What I can say is that a grade 1 within 10 minutes, a grade 2 within 30 minutes, and it would have to be assessed on what was coming in. Obviously, what's been raised are the same questions that I've asked about this facility, which is what about the persons generating outside, hanging around outside, when they come to leave? I have asked the exact same questions. What we can do as police is what mitigation we put in place to alleviate some of these issues. We've got powers and policies that we use currently for antisocial behaviour in general in the town. We have dispersal put in place where we can disperse people for up to 48 hours. I can authorise that if we're having problems. So I think we need to move away from how quickly will police get there to problems, because that could be hundreds of different examples. And we're not going to get a defined response time depending on what specifically that job is. So all I can talk about is what mitigation we can put in place. We have daily management meetings where we review every job that's come in through the day before. ASB jobs are reviewed. We know who our impact offenders are in the town centre. We review that daily. We have certain procedures that we work with the local authority where we can have injunctions against people. So if they are repeat ASB offenders, we have injunctions where they're not allowed into the town centre. Persons that repeatedly breach the PSPO, we've had an injunction with someone from the town centre. So what I can talk about is what mitigation we can put in place, rather than how quickly we're going to get there when there's a problem, because that would define dependence on what the job was on that evening or that day.
Like to follow the question? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of points. I just want to thank officers for the additional information and also for the work that they're doing with rough sleepers and trying to get them back on the straight and narrow, putting the location to one side. It is great to hear that the vulnerable people in our community are being looked after. Alongside that, though, understanding this location, I heard you say about security when the gates are open. I think at the start we heard that that was only going to be for potentially a couple of hours a day. So that is still leaving 22 hours where there isn't security around in terms of the perimeter. So that does just give me a little bit of insecurity. I think it sounds like there's a really robust plan for keeping everyone safe inside the building. I think it goes back to what everyone else is saying. It's about the residents nearby and everyone else that I just don't feel completely satisfied about. Thank you.
Just to clarify that the residents are not going to be staying in their flats and their property for the 22 hours. So, yes, we will have service coordinators, support officers, like I've said in the report. We're looking at doing activities, we're looking at taking them to appointments. So they're actually not going to be present there. And, for those 12 hours or 22 hours, they will be doing stuff in the day. When the hub is open, we're looking at supporting people, ensuring no one's in and out. But it will still be staffed. There will still be staff there. There will still there will still be CCTV on the streets, outside and in. So we're not just shutting the doors when the hub is gone and that's it. They can just come and do what they want. That's not how it's going to be. So there will still be staff coming and going, not just the 2 staff there, the other support officers supporting the residents and there. We're looking at diversion activities, taking them out into groups, into doing things, into getting them integrated back into the community, into volunteering, that kind of thing. So, you know, some of them will be members of the gym. They like to do that kind of thing to get back, you know, support them with their mental health. So we're not looking at just having people put there and left there. That's not the idea of it. The idea is that we are doing that wraparound support to get them the support they need, whatever that may be, and taking them out to appointments and taking them out to see what we can do with them.
I mean, it all sounds so great, and you know, we all hope that we won't become vulnerable, and none of us will end up down the wrong path. And it's great that they can have this support and go to the gym or help to get back on the straight and narrow. I'm just really not convinced of this whether this is or isn't the right street, but I think in an ideal world, it sounds great, doesn't it?
Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Chair. I went and had a look at this, the walk around yesterday, and apologies for the windows you were talking about, but I did notice around the back, there were the 2 of the tall windows that seem to overlook, I think, number 3, and the house next to it into the back garden. Are those ones you were speaking about? They're the tall windows on the side of the building.
Those existing windows.
Yeah.
No, they weren't the ones that we were talking about. We were talking about new windows.
Ah,
So the existing windows.
Looking at having those.
Frosted.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wondering what your thoughts are. What struck me is around the back of it, between the houses on Hatchell Street, there's an alleyway where people put the bins out. And it did seem to me it's quite dark. It seemed to be an area that might be a magnet for antisocial behaviour right behind there. But
Look at the designs, that's what we blocked off. So the only access in and out is that gate at the front. So all that will be blocked off.
sorry, so you can walk onto it from the pavement at the moment from you walk outside.
At the back.
Where there's the alley at the back of Hatchell Street, where people have their bins out, they go up the back garden, put the bins out, but you can just walk around there from the side.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me that'd be if somebody wanted to avoid any obvious observation, they might go and sneak around the back and start making a bit of a nuisance themselves around there.
They wouldn't be able to get onto the property though.
It's okay.
That may not be their why they go around the back. They're going into people's. What do you mean, the property of the centre? Yeah, but it just seemed to me to be an obvious place where they may collect. Around the back, it's quite dark and people aren't observing you there. I just wonder what your thoughts were on that. Sounds like some people do now already.
It's an existing alleyway, so that could happen at any time.
Yes,
So people can't. We've got to look at whether this totally here will significantly exacerbate that situation. We have no evidence that it will. So it's an existing situation that happens in alleyways all over the place. They're prone to antisocial behaviour. And this application really makes that situation significant.
Chris, you got the follow?
No, I think it's an unknown, isn't it, at the moment?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please keep your comments right into yourself, please? Because it's difficult to hear things in here and I don't want any sort of blurring of the issues, so to speak.
It needs to be balanced though, doesn't it? Because you haven't listened to our points before. So we've only got 5 minutes to represent ourselves. It's very difficult.
I understand your frustration, but that's the process, I'm afraid. You have to make your representation prior to the meeting.
There's 2 streets and 1 tenement building, and you've got 1 person trying to represent all of that without consultation. He represented that point.
I'm chairing the meeting. I'm not responsible for the process. I'm sorry. Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as far as the planning application for the building itself, I can't see a problem whatsoever. Looked at the windows. My concern is what happens outside. And we asked for the agreements so we can go and investigate. I visited 2 homeless shops in city. One was horrendous outside, and social behaviour, dealing and whatever. The other one was as quiet as no problems whatsoever. So it was really hard to get to an understanding. But still, again, we haven't got a crystal ball. We don't know what's being got outside. If this planning, if this is given permission, we might be able to. In my view, this should have gone to scrutiny. Water on the bridge, but this should have gone to the scrutiny. But it could have been scrutinised by the police, come along, other organisations, plus the residents. We could have scrutinised it and then report, come back to this committee. I feel we've just gone a little bit over what planning is about. Because you say the planning application itself, the building, security and all of that will be, I'm sure it'll be run in the right and proper manner. But it's outside and the impact that this use will have on the streets, around the area where and just been intimated about the alleyways. We just don't know. And I don't, again, I just find it very difficult to agree with this, with Met, because he says, like I say, we haven't got a crystal ball, and I spoke to officers, as I say, I've visited different places, but just cannot really vote for this because, well, what's it, Pandora's box, whatever, we just do not know what's going to happen. And the officers made a report, the police, the police resources, thanks for attending tonight. We know what the problem with the police resources. So I really, I'll leave it at that one. Can I ask 2 questions really? One is about the weekend use. Gone through the report, just 5 days, use of the building. For also the CCTV, will that be on the street outside or just internal CCTV? Will it be outside or where will the camera, if there is one outside, where will that be sitting? Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
We're looking at situating it outside on the street so we can overlook going into Stubbs Gate and coming from the street itself. So it covers all like that.
Yeah. Weekends.
Weekends, so there will be no public weekends, but obviously the residents will be staying there, and so we're just supporting firms like the staff and security, so.
Just come back, so it'll be, there's the people upstairs that are living there, staying open. They'll be there, of course, sense. But anyone else, your sleepers not, weekends, what happens then, even in the winter time?
Are you just talking about the hub, what happens to the hub at
Yes.
weekends? So there won't be a hub open, the hub will only be open Monday to Friday. 2 hours between Monday to Friday, there will be no hub at the weekend, it will just be the residents who live there.
I said the question, what happens to the people who use it throughout the week? They would know where else to go then.
No, they will still be there, they will still be living
Yes,
there.
people upstairs.
Yeah,
Still going to be people downstairs.
there won't be anyone downstairs. Thank you, Chairman.
It's just been honest. It's fine.
Thank you, that's the question.
Councillor Williams, Councillor Beast.
Thank you, Chair. I did actually go to visit the hub this morning and I was really impressed by the atmosphere, and I chatted to a few of the users there and they were you know, they were really looking forward to this project coming into being, and they were saying Crystal is very strict and they will do whatever it takes. And they were telling me some stories about how people's lives have been helped, which was absolutely great. So I'm not sure if these are the people that you would be anticipating a problem with. There is a problem around the whole area of sort of Stubbsgate, Costa Coffee, the Sunken Roundabout and Morrison's. And I don't know what the police presence is around there or what orders are in place. But just drinking a coffee at Costa and sitting outside, it's not uncommon to be approached by someone and talking to the manager of Costa, which is very often a younger person. They are having conflicts in there. These may well not be the same people, but I'd be interested to know if there is any sort of order in place to deal with them. And the other question I have is, what provision will there be for actual rough sleepers in Newcastle? These won't be rough sleepers, will they? This is like a resettlement project, really.
So I'll just take the first part there. We have a problem-solving meeting that runs weekly at Newcastle. One of those problem profiles is the town centre as a whole in terms of the antisocial behaviour that we're experiencing currently. Some of the topics that we sort of discussed there are patrol strategies. So we had Operational Lyme, which ran for the last 3 or 4 months, which was funded, which allowed extra police officers in the town. That's been cut, unfortunately. I think our resources have been mentioned already by members of the panel. But I have to be as creative in terms of what we can do. So we have a patrol strategy that runs between 2 and 5 o'clock, which is when our statistics show that we have most antisocial behaviour. What that looks like then is we have a Section 35 dispersal, which I've already mentioned, so we can disperse people for up to 48 hours. We also work closely with the bed, which is obviously working in the town, so we can get alternative provisions for some of the young people that are causing antisocial behaviour. So we have a week of action in the half-term holidays where we've got outside agencies coming in to directly engage with some of the persons that are causing antisocial behaviour. And like I say, we have a daily meeting where we discuss what antisocial behaviour we experienced the day before, reviewing CCTV, making sure that our problem profiles updated with who those individuals are, and then we can use things such as injunctions that we've started to use with local authority as well. So obviously arresting people, the obvious one, but we won't arrest ourselves out of the problem sometimes. We need to work with our partners such as Crystal, local authority. We need to be creative to problem solve some of these individuals. We can't arrest them and expect them to disappear, they will come back. Some of those tactics are used currently. It is difficult because of the resources that we've got. But like I said, we have stood our neighbourhood teams up now. So we've got 3 police officers, 3 PCSOs, which cover the town centre specifically. Just to give you some stats, and I know perception is sometimes different from what we're actually experiencing. But since we've gone to our new policing model, antisocial behaviour is down by 25% in the last 12 months. Crime is down 14%, and this is Newcastle Town Centre. We've had a 34% reduction in business burglary, which is obviously affecting the town businesses specifically. 15% reduction for criminal damage, 32% reduction in violence in the town centre, 33% reduction in sexual offences, 2% reduction in theft, and 48% reduction of theft of motor vehicles. So as much as fear of crime, and that's what we're talking about, this proposal is hard. What will happen? What are we going to experience? And I appreciate that. That concerns me. But what we are experiencing in the last 12 months is a reduction in antisocial behaviour crime in the town centre.
Thank you. I was quite concerned, sorry, Crystal. I was quite concerned about is it the same people that are causing the antisocial behaviour that will be using the hub, would you say? Thank you.
I think it's sometimes a misconception that somebody is homeless is involved in criminality and antisocial behaviour all the time. Crystal, I'm sure, could get some case studies very specific around persons that have just fallen on hard times. It's often mental health. Substance misuse doesn't always mean criminality. There's obviously a link. It would be very naive of me to sit here and say that it isn't linked. And that's why we work as closely together with Crystal as we do. But we go down to the hub, and a lot of those persons aren't the persons that are committing burglaries and thefts in the town centre. It's not necessarily linked to homelessness, and that's quite key. I've worked in policing for 17 years. I've been the town centre sergeant here 5 years ago. But worked very closely with a lot of homeless persons then, and there's probably a misconception sometimes that they are the persons that are committing the crime in the town. Antisocial behaviour, possibly, yes. But there's no direct correlation with crime and homeless people that we experience here in Newcastle. They're often just very vulnerable people who need that support, and that's something that I will definitely support Christelle with in terms of finding somewhere and helping them to get the support that we need. But like I say, what we're discussing is whether this location is the correct place or not.
Thank you. I'd like to think I don't share those misconceptions, having been homeless myself and having worked with the homeless. Thanks. Sorry, Christelle. It's just whether it was the same people, but I think the chief inspector's answered from his point of view. Is it the same people that are causing antisocial behaviour that are using the hub, or are they different people?
We have a variety of people that use the hub. Anyone that causes ASB, like I've said, we've got, like you spoke to the service users today, we have zero tolerance there. If you're not respectful, if you're going to cause any issues to the staff, to the other users, then you're going to be allowed in. That place is a safe place where everyone is there to get signposted, to get support, and to get what they need. So, you know.
Thank you. That's certainly the impression I got. Thank you.
Councillor Bisson, any other speakers on this matter? Can't see any indication, so folks, we're in that position now where we need to conclude this item. Do we have any formal proposals to accept the application before you tonight, or not? Councillor Sweeney.
I was going to propose it, so I haven't.
Propose acceptance. We have a second. Councillor Holmes.
We have to vote on it one way or the other, so we may as well take Councillor Sweeney's proposal. Can I check, though, that if we're going to vote first on permitting this, that we're doing so with that additional condition relating to external lighting, and our officer's given a clear instruction not to approve it unless we're satisfied that it is not going to cause light pollution for neighbours, but equally is not going to create any dark spaces immediately around this building that could be a harbour or a safe haven for antisocial behaviour. A condition relating to that obscure glazing for the two new windows. And is there any, I am mindful that this is an application coming from our own authority. Is there within our planning law any means of a mechanism for reviewing this change of use? What we're permitting today is mainly change of use. There are some small changes being made to the building itself, but there are concerns among members that this use could generate the kind of antisocial behaviour that Councillor Williams says he saw at another facility in the next door to us. If we're permitting this now, I'll be saying to our residents, we're never going to revisit this. This is something the council will do forever. And if it turns out to be a huge mistake, we're not going to change. Now, I know, because I'm a councillor in a wider sense, that yes, scrutiny committee may well call this in and say, actually, we want to look at the operation of this facility. Or it may be that things happen in the future that cause us as an authority to want to change the way in which we do things. But those won't necessarily be planning matters. And what I'm asking our officers, is there a condition we can make, either giving temporary consent for a limited time, or by placing, a marker down that says we can do something about it. So before we go to vote on permitting it or otherwise, can I get some reassurance on that? And apologies to Councillor Sweeney if this means that I'm interrupting what he wanted to move to.
Thank you, Councillor Holland.
Yes, we could attach a condition, a temporary condition, 12 months, for example, and that would mean that at that point the applicant would need to come back with another application, and obviously at that point we would have 12 months of evidence to consider and to base they're following decision on really. So yeah, that's definitely an option.
If councillor Sweeney is amenable to that and the period is 12 months, I would be prepared to second that as a motion to put in front of us. I'm being transparent now with people in the gallery as well. If this causes problems, I would not want to see that perpetuated. But this is extremely serious for them, and I know that members have received a huge amount of reassurance tonight. So on that basis, I'm prepared to second it. If councillor Sweeney is willing to amend, please.
Yeah, councillor, on that basis, I am. I think it's an excellent idea, actually.
Thank you, councillor. Do we have any other further proposals? In that case, it's been formally proposed and seconded. Can I see a show of hands in support of those conditions and also how it's printed? Thank you. See those against? Any abstentions? That item is clearly carried. Thank you, councillor.
So then, as the council getting evicted.
Okay, back to the business of the agenda and reverting to the previous order. So at this point, we'll take the item, should have been item 4, so that becomes item 5. Application for major development, land off Cross Street, Chesterton, draw to develop. At this point, I shall vacate the chair and hand it over to my colleague, councillor Chris.
Hello. So where are we? Item 4, land off Cross Street. We got presentation. Yeah. So take it away, Charles.
Thank you, Chair. So this application seeks full planning permission for 39 affordable new dwellings, associated landscaping and access of land off Cross Street in Chesterton. So a previous scheme for 73 supported living apartments was granted on the site back in 2020. So the site is located to the north of Cross Street and borders Kent Grove to the west. So this plan shows the previous arrangement of houses on the site, but the site's now been cleared, so these dwellings have all now been demolished. And this is the new proposed layout. So the proposal would comprise of a pair of semi-detached bungalows in the southeast, a central parking area, which will be surrounded by a mixture of 2-storey properties and bungalows, and a 3-storey apartment building in the north part of the site. There's also a good number of areas of open space and landscaping, and a large amount of new planting. So only a small amount of new houses would be created, but 2 large car parking areas would form part of the scheme. So the areas in grey are the adopted highways, but the parking courtyard in the central part of the scheme will not be adopted. So there are designated bin storage areas proposed, which will limit the distance needed for residents to travel in order to allow them to put their bins out for collection. So these are the elevational details of the proposed bungalows, which would surround the courtyard on two sides. These are constructed in red brick with slate roofs. These are the apartments, which would be located to the northwestern side of the courtyard. So again, they'd be of a traditional design, constructed all of red brick. These are the elevational details of the proposed three-storey apartment building, which again would be red brick. We've got some 3D visual mock-up drawings of the site. So here's how it would appear from the southeast. Here's another one when viewed from the south. And here's a street scene view as well, which is also viewed from the south. So there's no issues in principle to the proposed development, given that it would utilise a brownfield site within an existing urban area of the borough. All properties would be affordable. So in respect of developer contributions, an up-to-date viability report has been provided with the application, which concludes that the scheme would not be viable with any developer contributions. So this assessment has been reviewed by an independent valuer at the request of officers, and it was confirmed by the valuer that the findings of the viability assessment are accurate. So whilst it's unfortunate that there will be no contributions as a result of the development, it's important to note that the scheme would still bring it with a number of benefits, including a good contribution to the council's housing supply and the provision of affordable housing in a sustainable location. So there's no outstanding objections from the consultees, and the application is therefore brought to the committee with recommendation for approval. Thank you.
And we have a speaker in support. I'd like to come up to the front. You have 5 minutes, and Jeff will give you a warning in 4.
Good evening, Chair, members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of my client, Aspire Housing Committee this evening. My client would like to express its gratitude to your officers for the way in which they've engaged with us during the planning application process and for preparing such a thorough and balanced report to committee. As you will probably be aware, and as Charles explained, Aspire originally secured outline planning permission for the redevelopment of this phase of the Cross Street estate in 2020 as part of its wider estate redevelopment strategy. The current detailed proposal has been shaped through extensive engagement with your officers, elected members at the SBCG, and off the back of the feedback Aspire and its consultant team received from Design Midlands when we carried out an independent design review. We're confident, therefore, that the scheme before you will deliver a high-quality residential development which satisfies all policy provisions in respect of design and amenity. As you will see from your officer's report, they and all consultees are satisfied that the proposed development would not give rise to any adverse technical or environmental impacts, and that the scheme Aspire is intending to deliver will satisfy all requirements in respect of biodiversity net gain and replacement tree planting, which are required to mitigate some losses that occurred on previous phases of development of the Cross Street estate. It will also provide satisfactory range of waste storage and collection, on-site vehicle, cycle and disability scooter parking, and also charging points for electric vehicles. Aspire's proposal will deliver 39 much needed affordable homes, which will help to address the borough's current shortfall in the supply of affordable housing. Your officers have recommended that planning permission is granted subject to a condition which will require Aspire to submit to the local authority for its approval details of how the affordable housing units would be secured, the tenure of the units and their occupancy criteria prior to commencement of the development, which Aspire welcomes. This application therefore presents the committee with an opportunity to approve a sustainable development, and in doing so help to minimise the need for the local authority to grant planning permission for housing developments in other less sustainable locations elsewhere in the borough. In these circumstances, we believe that the case for granting planning permission is compelling and urge you therefore to resolve to grant planning permission in line with the recommendation of your officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Shall we open it up for debate? Anyone? Councillor Gordon?
Thank you, Chairman. I won't detain the committee too long. There's just obviously welcome the application. There are sort of three very quick points I would make. First of all, I was delighted to actually see provision for bungalows. Don't seem to figure very often these days in applications for a new development coming from the committee. And I think as the authority would want to ensure that there was a range of accommodation. Seen some bungalows, I think, but are being constructed on the site, very, very reassuring. I was less happy, once again, to note unadopted road. I know why these are included in development plans, but it does cause some inconvenience, and I wish developers wouldn't do it. And finally, Chairman, wouldn't it be great to have an application where we were actually preserving the trees rather than seeing them cut down? Sorry to see that 11 trees are having to have to go because of the application. Not a reason for objecting, but it would be good, I think, if we could see more evidence that existing trees were being retained, because it's going to take a while. I know biodiversity gain, but that's going to take a while, Chairman.
Charles, any comment on the bins? Okay. Councillor Sweeney?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. You probably said this, Charles, so I'm probably really thick because I was thinking about the previous item at the time and I thought, well, I can't multitask. The 106 agreement says on here that it's not viable. It frequently says that on Spire pages, not. Who says it's not viable without the with the 106 one?
So essentially a viability assessment that's been submitted with the application. So that takes into account all the contributions that we've asked for. So in this case, there's a certain contribution to open space contributions, or several £1,000s. There's a highways contribution as well, which is several £1,000s. So they need to work out what percentage value they would still retain as a result of that. From memory, I think it's less than 20%. Is basically not a viable scheme. So their viability assessment has set that out, but to make sure that it is accurate, we have that independently verified by an independent valuer, and they've come back with the same conclusion, so that they agree with the findings of that. So it's not just evidence from the applicant, it's also being scrutinised by an independent valuer as well.
Thank you, Charles.
Councillor Beasley?
Hi. As one of the councillors for Holtsh and Chesterton, I would echo what Councillor Sweeney is saying about Section 106 contributions, and on behalf of Councillor Grocott, we're both very dismayed that those are not going to be available. I'd also like to echo what Councillor Gordon was saying about the hedgerows and the trees. Is there any chance of preserving any of the ones that are at the moment going? I know some have already gone, but
yeah, I think some of the issues that the site has already been sort of largely cleared, which is a result of the previous permission. So I think unfortunately the damage has already been done in that respect. It's quite difficult for these sites when the trees don't have any kind of formal protection, because there's nothing really we can do as a local authority to stop them being removed, if that makes sense. So in this case, we just have to try and make the most of what is left really, and then obviously have conditions to try and increase the overall tree planting for the site.
thank you. Then we should try to protect our trees. We do have a development, and I know lots of people are waiting for it in Chesterton, so it'll be nice to see it go ahead.
Anybody else? Oh, Councillor, you got 2 minutes. Councillor Williams.
We talk about affordable homes. Now, are these homes going to be rented? Or are they for sale?
So at the moment, we don't have that information. So the idea would be that would be conditioned, and essentially that information would then have to be provided once permissions.
So why are we calling them affordable if we don't know if they are affordable?
They would still have to be affordable, but we just don't know the arrangements.
So what would you say is affordable for somebody at a basic wage?
It's normally. Yeah, well, not normally it's considered to be 80% of current house market sort of value.
And if we're having an adopted road, who's going to do the upkeep of those roads? County won't take them, so is that left to the residents?
The county do take responsibility for them if they're adopted. So they maintain all adopted roads.
That's all we don't, it's only 3 or 4 times and really grossly. It's just a mess, so
Well-
can't we put conditions on?
Well, we don't need to because they're because roads that are adopted should be by their very nature maintained by the county council. If they're not, then that would have to be an issue that you'd have to take up with the highway authority at Staff's County Council. But it,
No, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You know,
Councillor
We've
Williams,
got-
do you mean unadopted roads? Is that what you're referring to?
yeah,
I think I think
we do, we
It's
have a big
unadopted
problem
ones.
with all adopted roads, can't we put it on, when we do planning, can we not insist those roads are adopted?
I thought you said
Before we go for sale?
I thought you said adopted roads
Yeah,
at the beginning. Unadopted roads. Well, we have to assess the scheme, and if the highway authority are satisfied with them as they're shown on this plan, and we can't insist that they are adopted. And we're satisfied with the scheme and the layout as it is. The majority of the roads are adopted, and there's one small section that would be that wouldn't be adopted. So it's a normal part of residential developments for there to be adopted roads and some private drives that aren't adopted.
It's time we looked at our policies.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thanks, thanks for that. Councillor Williams has just finished my thunder really. And as far as adopted roads, we have an estates that we've built last 10 years that are not adopted. People pay, they park, some of them owned by Spire Housing, some private. But they pay into a scheme where they maintain the road. The county haven't adopted. Whether they don't want to adopt them or they don't adopt them because there's a failings within the construction of the roads. It's keeping it, and talked about private roads. And really sort of recycling bins and all of that. And it's a real problem that's going through. It's been going on for a number of years. But I can say there's in crossing it, there's an estate built and all the roads are private. So what point I'm going to make, I welcome this, Councillor said, this area. It's a really good development and it's well needed. But again, we don't know. I've asked the third time I've asked this question. Are the affordable rented? What is the percentage of affordable renting? Affordable renting is 20% below market rent. Or the affordable properties, with the affordable. What is it? You know, it's affordable. That it really sticks in my craw. Is what's affordable? Affordable true. But really, the point is, a lot of these properties were demolished on the site. Majority of them were rented, by Spire. How are we going to lose that percentage of rented properties on this estate against what was there originally? That's, in the last plan application we discussed, went into great detail what's going on about inside, outside, all of this. And on this, yeah, I can understand there's so much detail there. But on the recommendations right at the bottom, affordable housing provision. The officer has mentioned it once. Affordable housing representative from the Spire Centre. But really, we don't, in my view, we're not given enough information as the reason you know, it's affordable and then it's not viable. So I can go along with it, that non-viability. If there was more rented accommodation, affordable rented accommodation on the site. So I can't vote against it because it's needed. But again, can we have that information? It's the third time I've asked for this information. And the officer came back last time, came back to me, approached by an ordinary developer and said he can't give us that information. I find it very strange that he can't give you the amount of affordable rented properties that are going onto the estate.
Charles, do you want to?
Oh, just one other thing, could you just put, get me take council?
You go ahead.
On the car parking, there's a car park right in the corner there, right on the top. There below. The lighting in there, there's going to be a camera, CCTV camera. It was asked as PCT, remember, we talked about this. Council Field brought it up. But right in this corner, there's the car park behind that bungalow there. It's going to be a dark place, isn't it? Is it, what kind of lighting is going to be going there? Or is it going to be a CCTV camera? Or, yeah, thank you.
Just for the car park, not sure there was details of CCTV set out in the plans, but what we could do is add a condition there would probably be the most appropriate way of addressing that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. It would essentially be sort of security measures and external lighting details for the provision of a car park. So that would probably be the easiest way to address that point. I mean, with the affordable housing, it's really the sort of same answer that I suppose I provided on the previous Aspire ones, that we've taken the approach before in allowing a condition. So we don't really have a reason to say that we can't do that. It still needs to be affordable housing. It still needs to meet our guidance is set out in the affordable housing supplementary planning document. But so they simply couldn't comport and say we're not going to provide any affordable housing. They would have to vary the condition, which would require a new application. But in this case, we do feel it's suitable to wait for the information to come in and assess in the future.
Just about, appreciate the officer to go and give them so much information. But again, is there less rented, or rented on this new development than there was on the old development, which is demolished? Really, that was the question. God clearly can't give it tonight. But that's, you know, the question I think is needed to be answered. Really, thank you very much, Chair.
Just coming back very briefly on that, I do understand your concerns and your query on that aspect. Because certainly in the past, on the vast majority of applications that we brought to committee, we were able to say that 60% would be X and 40% would be Y, etc. And I think moving forward and considering other applications, we will look at that more carefully and look to try and get that information from the applicants before we bring it to committee, or certainly an indication of that. But really just to try and put your mind at ease a little bit, that on that condition, they will be required to submit information, which will be a breakdown of the 10 years, etc. And we would seek the advice of our colleague in our housing strategy section who deals with affordable housing, and he has the most up-to-date information on what the specific needs are in the borough, and what is being lost, or where there is a particular need. So he would give us that advice, and we would be able to refuse that condition or request that they come in with amended details if we were not satisfied with it. So we will look carefully at that, because we don't have the information up front on this application, and we will liaise with our colleague and ensure that we do get an appropriate mix. But I do hear your comments generally, and moving forward, we will try and get more information up front before we bring it to committee.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose the first thing to say is it's a good application. Support it. I'll be voting for it. It is less dense than what has already got extant consent on the site, and it looks well designed to me. two issues to raise. First, in relation to tenure and affordable housing. This is the second meeting in a row, and I will try to be as polite as I can. This is the second meeting in a row when I have felt compelled to air to the chair and to our officers that if members do not understand very well established meaning of the terms affordable housing, both in terms of affordable let and affordable ownership, then that is a training opportunity, and we should all benefit from learning about it and how it applies to applications that we're determining. And I really honestly don't believe that the tenure of these dwellings is relevant to the decision that we're making tonight. The applicant is a social housing provider. They build houses, they let them out. That seems to me to be fairly straightforward. On the other hand, if they were to build houses and to sell them to other people, fantastic. Those houses have been sold. They were affordable within the legal definition of affordable, and now people are living in them. That's fantastic. We need new houses in our borough. The other issue that I was going to raise is in relation to adopted highway. I hear what councillors have said on this and previous applications about adopted highway. Could our officers bring up the site layout again? I'm having difficulty loading it on my device because honestly, I cannot see from the bits that I've been able to access where we could conceivably say we want more adopted highway without adopting somebody's car park, which is outside of policy. It is not something that we're entitled to do. It's not something the County Council as Highways Authority would accept. So Kent Grove, is it Kent Grove? Yes, is already adopted highway. What is behind it is a car park, and we're not looking to adopt that. As I understand it, the access road on the right-hand side to the east of the site is also going to be adopted, as say, except for the part of it that is a car park and access to the car park. It's as though we were asking the Highway Authority to adopt our driveways. And if it's that central part that is also a car park that's not being adopted or intended to be constructed to a standard that can be adopted, I can't see an objection in that. And given that part of the application is for an apartment block, those are dwellings that will always have an issue with bin presentation that we need to resolve through the normal channels. So is it possible to get a clearer view of what on that map is adopted? And would any member like to propose extending the adoption? You know, because I'd be very, very happy to look at that to say, actually, we're going to refuse this unless an additional fraction of it is adopted highway. And I cannot see what we'd be asking for on this application.
Yeah, so it's the central parking area. It's this sort of darker shade, well, lighter shaded section, I should say, here, sort of tan colour in the middle. That's really the only unadopted section to it. So there's not much highways created at all really as a result of the development, but it's that section there. So it's really just the space in between those parking spaces, which is fairly minor in the grand scheme of it.
What's been discussed? Yeah.
Councillor Beeson?
Thank you, Chair. My colleague, Councillor Grocott, informs me that the previous residents of Cross Street of the houses and flats that were demolished have been temporarily housed in Nutton and will be coming back. So it's a moot point really as to whether they're affordable or not. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Williams?
Yeah, it's just to come back. We know exactly, that's Councillor, we know exactly what percentages there are for new developments and social housing, rented and affordable. We know exactly the percentage. What the point we're making is a bit affordable rented, what we need in this borough. And I appreciate what the officers said, well, talk to the officers involved with assessing what kind of housing we need in the borough. But we all know the state of housing in the borough is absolutely, or in the country, is absolutely in a terrible situation. There isn't houses. We get people regularly ringing us up that, you know, just cannot begin to be put out on the streets, and there isn't housing available. And that's from the point we're coming from. As you know, the need of affordable rented properties in the borough, and hopefully all of these will be affordable rented. That's the point I'm making. And on adoption, we don't stop the roads until the estate is developed. We don't know whether county council will adopt any of these road.
Charles, are these all the existing tenants coming back or are they? No. Council Hutchinson. No, I don't want to disappoint Council Holland, so can we put in a request for some swift bricks, please? But can you just tell me how many houses with bins have got to take them to a central point? Are we talking something like 12 out of the 39 houses, or is it a smaller percentage or a larger percentage?
With the first point of reducing your comment, and I've included the wording in the proposed condition for the Swift bricks, so that would be part of it. The second point is the majority. This is a slightly different scheme to the other, so this is actually aimed more at sort of elderly residents, and there's more communal bin areas in this than there would be sort of typical arrangements where you bring your bins by yourself out to the highway. So the majority in this case are going to be served by bin storage areas, which would be the case anyway for an apartment building, obviously. So it's probably the only exception would maybe be those two bungalows at the bottom there would likely just bring the bin straight out onto the highway.
But then that.
There is on here, but it's hard to see. For example, I think there is bin storage areas, I think around here, for example, but it's not the easiest thing to pick up on this plan. But what we do is actually have a condition as well to any permission requiring those exact details of those bin storage areas to be submitted for approval as well.
Again. So those 12 houses there will be going to a central bin store. I think that's what you're saying. Are these bungalows?
It's a mixture of bungalows and two-story dwellings.
Okay, so if we have elderly people with limited mobility, they can't move the bin themselves, you could be asking the crew to do an assisted collection to every one of those 12 bungalows. That's going to add a lot of time when the crews go to empty those bins. I mean, everybody's entitled to have their bins emptied, but if we're telling the crew, oh, by the way, there's a new development and you're going to have to do assisted collections, a possibility of assisted collections to 12 plus residences, I kind of think that's unacceptable, really, to me. I'm thinking of the crews. Okay, noted. Councillor Gordon.
Chairman, my concern about the unadopted road was simply triggered by a statement in the officer's report, which I've sort of scribbled down here. Residents of a pair of detached bungalows to the southeast or south would not be able to take their bins directly onto the highway. You know, and it's that inconvenience really that triggered me to make the point about the road.
Just to clarify, that might be an error, I think, by the sounds of it in the report more than anything, because those two options certainly will be the ones that can bring the bin straight out onto a adopted highway. There's no doubt in that one. So it sounds like an error of wording. Yeah, so. I was a bit confused as well then, yeah. So,
well, at least it shows a red.
Yeah, apologies for that. That's completely my fault.
Okay, any final comments? Okay, so proposal for Councillor Williams, any seconders? And Councillor Williams to section. Should we take a vote? All in favour? Okay, sorry, yeah, that's everyone. Yep. I think that's everyone, isn't it? So, yeah, sorry, motion is passed. Oh, yes, please. Or you could stay close.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Thank you for Councillor Chris for that last item. Just item 6 on the agenda, application for major development, vehicle storage land, Lindley Road talk.
Thank you, Chairman. So the application seeks permission for a new heavy goods vehicle service centre building at a vehicle storage area located on Lindley Road, Torque. So for context, the site is located on Lindley Road. It's close to the crossroads leading onto Congleton Road, which you just see on the right in the location plan. So there's an existing access from Lindley Road, which will be utilised for the development. So this is the site plan. The new service centre building will be located close to the southern boundary of the site. The access track for the heavy goods vehicles would run through the building and then loop back to the access road. These are the elevational details. The new unit would comprise of a large warehouse style building, which would measure 25 metres by 35 metres in plan. Would have a total ridge height of 7.2 metres. So the building would have an appearance based on functional requirements. Walls would be comprised of powder coated aluminium curtain walling with brickwork at base level, with an anthracite coloured roof constructed of insulated cladding panels. So the overall appearance of the proposal would not be dissimilar to the other nearby industrial and commercial units. Here are the other set of elevational drawings for the proposal. And here are a couple of photos from Lindley Road looking at the position of where the new unit would be. So there's a good amount of screening along the south boundary of the site, which is to be retained, and that would help to partially screen the proposal from view. So in respect of the impact on amenity, the Council's environmental health team have raised no objections to the proposal, but they have suggested a number of conditions which relate to matters such as construction hours, dust control, and the submission of a construction and environmental management plan. We haven't received any objections from neighbours, and subject to the recommended conditions, it is considered that any impact on amenity can be mitigated. The proposal would likely see around 10 new staff members working at site, and so will only have a very limited impact on the local highway network. The Highways Authority have confirmed that they've raised no objection to the proposal. So subject to conditions, please consider that the proposal is acceptable in respect to its design and appearance, its impact on amenity and its impact on the highway network. And the proposal is therefore brought to the committee with a recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Over to members. Councillor Bernard Faulkner.
I'd like to propose that we accept this. It's in an industrial area at all, and it's been used for car storage, and I think we have up and down civil lifts and cranes and goodness knows what for years anyway. And years ago, there used to be the very same building that they're pouring up now there, and there used to be a transport cap across the road. So I think it's fine.
That's a formal proposal. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Could I just point out exactly where this building is going to be on that site? This is a big site, so it's been cleared.
Yeah, so it's just this building here, right in the close to the southern boundary. That's the only one really. There's nothing else structurally proposed.
Okay, thank you.
The other councillors wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Gould.
Just a quick question, Chair, and apologies if it's in the report and I've missed it. Do the officers know the sort of opening hours, the hours in which this unit would be in operation?
Yeah, they were out when the application form, which I looked at earlier, so I can still remember it. It's quite typical working hours and sort of 11 until 6 on weekdays, and then a lower time on Sundays. I think it's around 11 till 6.
Does the council wishing to speak on this? Okay, so we've had it formally proposed by Councillor Burnett Faulkner. Happy to second it from the chair. Can I see a show of hands in support of this application? Thank you, that's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is land at High Street, Norton.
Thank you, Chair. So this proposal seeks full planning permission for the erection of a village hall on a vacant brownfield site on High Street in Notton. So seeing here the location plan, this is the High Street through the centre of Notton, and this is the site here edged in red. The site edged in blue that's adjacent to it is the site that was brought to committee maybe for residential development, and that was members resolved to approve that subject to conditions in a section 106. So, but it's the land edged red that we're looking at here. So the site is located in a mixed residential and commercial area, and the building is proposed here in this corner of the site. So the access road here is the access road into the residential scheme. So access will be taken off that road into the car park here to the rear of the building. So the building would comprise 2 main function rooms with a reception, bar, kitchen and toilets. There'd also be an outdoor amenity area here at the rear of the site, and parking area as mentioned there. There are 22 car parking spaces proposed. So the development comprises a building of relatively traditional design, red brick elevations with grey metal roof and windows. The proposal is considered to be acceptable in terms of the scale, massing, design and materials, and would be in keeping with the adjoining buildings and the area. The car parking, as I showed previously, is set back behind the building and would be mainly screened from the highway, so it wouldn't detract from the character and appearance of either the building or the housing scheme on the adjoining site. The building and car parking area would be softened by a landscaping scheme with hedgerows bounding the site and new tree planting. Just to show you a few photos, so that's from High Street, just looking directly at the site. That's just set further back, looking across the road to the site, existing buildings, which you can see here on the location plan. And that's looking further down the High Street, so that's probably the main site. So you can see the state of the site at the moment. You will note that there are 2 trees in this location. Those trees would not be retained, but the landscape section are happy that those trees come out subject to a condition requiring replacement planting. So the members may recall that officers recommended that this application be deferred at committee a couple of meetings ago, and that was to get a noise assessment submitted, because environmental health had expressed some concerns about the impact of the use, particularly on the new housing that's to be built and also the existing housing across the road. So that noise assessment has been submitted, and the Environmental Health Division have no objections, subject to a number of conditions, which you'll see is set out in a supplementary report. The building would be open between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m, 7 days a week. So it's on that basis that the noise assessment, the acoustic report has been produced. And then finally, the Highway Authority has no objections. So subject to conditions, the scheme is considered acceptable in terms of parking and access. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Over to you, councillors. Councillor Holland.
Welcome the application. Happy to move the recommendations as printed in the supplementary agenda with those additional conditions relating to noise and other matters. Very good to see applications of this nature come forward. I think, as I mentioned when we were looking at previous applications related to the master plan in Nutton, it is good to see things being built in Nutton, not just torn down, as was the case under the previous Labour administration of this authority. I'm delighted to have made somebody happy tonight. I know the audience earlier might not have been, but on behalf of my good friend, Alderman Huckfield, who I know is passionate about putting the heart back into Nutton, I think this is an application that should be approved on its merits. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Have we other councillors wishing to speak on this item? Other councillors wishing to speak? Move it. Okay, right, proposed by Councillor Holland with the additional conditions. Thank you, Councillor Williams, for seconding that proposal. Can I see a show of hands in support of that, please? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Next item on the agenda is application for minor development at the Robin Hood Inn, High Street, Kidsgrove. Over to office.
Thank you, Chair. So the application seeks retrospective permission for the retention of a rear external staircase and a new external door to the first floor accommodation at the Robin Hood Inn, which is located in the northern part of Kidsgrove. So here's the location plan. So in regards to the surrounding land uses, there are residential properties located to the south, east and north, plus a small row of commercial units lies to the west. The external staircase provides a new means of access to the first floor. It's bounded by timber screening, which runs along the northern and eastern edge of the staircase. Although the screening doesn't have any significant impact on the street scene due to the orientation of the host dwelling, the screening is visible from the rear windows of properties on Bank Street to the east. So whilst users of the external staircase would be positioned close to the rear elevations of neighbouring properties on Bank Street, any direct views into rear gardens and rear facing windows are obscured due to the timber screening itself. It should also be noted that the nearby gardens are communal gardens, which are used by the occupants of numbers 1 to number 21 Bank Street, and therefore a slightly lower level of privacy could generally be expected. There's also been a change to the outlook for the rear elevations of properties 5 to 7 on Bank Street as a result of the works. However, the new timber screening does not protrude any further to the east than the existing rear elevation of the Robin Hood Inn, and the screening would still be separated by a distance of over 6 metres from the rear elevations. So any noise nuisance from users of the staircase would be extremely limited, given the small amount of usable space, the fact that the staircase would be primarily used for access rather than as a new community area. So here are a couple of photos of the site. So the one on the left is taken from the car park that serves nearby shops. So you can just see the timber screening, which is above the black car on the left. So it's just along to the left-hand side of the screen. And the right-hand picture shows the screening from the actual external staircase itself. So we've not received any objections from residents, and in the absence of any significant visual impacts or impacts on amenity, the proposal is brought to the committee with recommendation for approval.
Charles. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I was interested in terms of the protective characteristics disability. On page 40, it said that there's no implications. I just was wanting to query what the disability access is. Would people be able to get to the second floor? Because obviously that's a staircase.
We generally go beyond planning control. That'll be more of a building regulations issue, sort of forcing on that scope.
So would that be addressed elsewhere or, yeah?
Councillor Brown, Councillor Bernard.
I propose that we agree with this proposed.
Proposed councillor, I just have to ask other members if they're prepared to add anything to the debate. Councillor Sweeney.
Was Chair, I don't have anything to debate, but I just second Gazbert Faulkner for me. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to say anything on this matter? Around and enthusiasm overwhelms me. So in that case, we've had it formally proposed and seconded by Councillor Sweeney. All those in favour, can I see a show of hands, please? Thank you. That item is clearly carried. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Application for minor development, Queen's Gardens, adjacent to Castle House, Barracks Road, Newcastle. And there's additional documents that the councillors should facilitated and familiarise themselves with.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the supplementary report just gave the comments of our Conservation Advisory Working Party, who had no objections to the proposal and in fact were supportive. So yeah, it's gone dark because we could have all just stood and seen it out the window or where it's going to be. But so you can, for those of you who don't know about the proposal, so just really outside these windows, there is an existing bench. That bench will be removed, and in its place will go the statue of the late Queen Elizabeth II. So the Queen's Gardens are within the town centre conservation area. So that's really the sole issue in consideration of this application is the impact on the character and appearance of the conservation area. So it would be a bronze statue that would be placed within the main area of the gardens. It would be 2.1 metres in height, set on a sandstone plinth. The council's conservation officer considers that the proposal would be an asset to the gardens and wouldn't have any adverse impact on the gardens or the wider conservation area. So for those who might not have seen it, this is a sketch of the statue. So you can see their total height of 2.1 metres. Apparently the late Queen is going to be facing this way, so or as she was walking towards Castle House rather than up. And yeah, that's really the only details I've got for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, over to you, councillors. Councillor Holland.
Chair, you asked for enthusiasm, and I have to say, if I could vote for this twice, I would. God bless her, God rest her. It's been 2 years now. This is a very deserved recognition. Every town should have one. And in accordance with the comments of our conservation officer, I think it's a fine addition. I think it's the right place for this this statue to be put. If the recommendation is printed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Any other councillor wishing to speak on this? Councillor Bernard Faulkner.
I'll second, and I agree with everything that Mark said.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, excellent, Mr. Chairman, in the Queen's Gardens, second Queen in the Queen's Gardens. And I was going to ask the question that the officer has actually given me an answer. Which way would the statue be facing? It's only a small matter, but I think it's important to whether it's facing that way, this way, or whatever, to get so people when they're coming onto the Queen's Gardens, they can actually see it in its full splendour. So that's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. So it's been proposed and seconded. Councillor Burnett Faulkner. Can I see a show of hands, please? And that's unanimous. That item's clearly passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is application for financial assistance under the Historic Buildings Grant, Lloyd Farmhouse and Hales Market Drayton. The item includes a supplementary report. You officer.
Nothing to add really. The supplementary report again just gives the comments of the Conservation Advisory Working Party. So yeah, nothing to add to what's set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I've actually been inside this house. It's a magnificent farmhouse, and it's quite an imposing presence in the area. And if any of you looked at photographs that have been included with the report, it's quite a substantial building, 3-storey presence in the area. Over to you, councillors. And it moved. I'm quite happy to second from the chair. Can I see a show of hands in support of this application, please? And that item is also unanimous and clearly passed. Thank you. Last substantive item on the agenda tonight includes land at Dockham School, Betley. I've been identified no further update. Councillors wish to keep this on the agenda?
Yes.
I see a show of hands. Item is unanimous. Carries over to the next one. One. Thank you. That brings the business to a conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. There's no urgent business and no disclosure of exempt information. So it just leaves me to draw the meeting to a close. So thank you very much for your attendance tonight and your enthusiasm with the agenda. Thank you. I'll take you home.